Hey, BR Tidwell 55 here, and I'm actually going to agree with EMIC, at least on the FCC regulation and net neutrality part. Don't really have a dog in the fight as far as the Google Voice app on the iPhones, but here's, and I've posted a couple of videos on my take on net neutrality in these proposed FCC regulations. And if you think about the term net neutrality, it's one of those ill-defined terms that means different things to different people. On the one hand, you have a lot of people that will identify, that will define that as broadband carriers, internet service providers shouldn't be allowed to discriminate against certain protocols that run on their network, or throttle bandwidth on certain applications. But I think in the broader sense, and in a more important sense, net neutrality should mean no one, no government, no company, no entity should be able to control the types of communication or interaction that occur on the internet, within reason. Obviously, what I'm going to say is, I really think in this country, at least in the United States, the internet is the last real bastion of free speech, and it's speech that isn't controlled or influenced by big media companies, government, what have you. It's a little anarchistic, but I don't necessarily, that's not always a bad thing. And with the FCC wanting to enforce these net neutrality regulations, I just see that as a foot in the door to other types of regulation. The way you see public radios, or radio stations or television stations regulated. I mean, there's two problems there. I mean, one, they're mostly controlled by big media conglomerates, and two, they are extremely regulated by the FCC, and the FCC is seeking even more control, and the government's seeking even more control. Just look at just look at the debate over the fairness doctrine on talk radio and what have you. Now, obviously there are caveats to that. I mean, when you have something wide open like the internet is, it's going to get used for criminal activity, and when that happens, and I'm talking about things like I'm talking about things like scams, uh, uh, child porn, uh, different frauds and cheats that occur all the time on the internet, and but there are already existing laws against that, and of course I'm all for going after the and prosecuting the perverts and the fraudsters and all that. But once you start, but what I'm afraid of is once you start regulating the broadband companies, and what's next? Are you going to start going after the content companies and the social media? And are you going to start? Are these net neutrality principles going to get expanded to actually to restrictions? And let's face it, we already have enough restrictions, and I still come down on this. And all this comes from the same place, and that's my libertarian philosophy about certain things. And the internet service providers, the broadband providers, they own the networks that we use to connect, and they have a responsibility to provide a certain a level of service that people pay for. But at the end of the day, you're with these regulations, you have the government really intruding on their private property rights as far as how they manage their networks. And I don't. And when you start doing that, you're going to stifle innovation. You're going to drive the cost up. There's just all kinds of second and third order effects that are bad. So I personally would like to see the FCC back off on this. I would like to if anything, if there's a way to promote more competition and more innovation, and let the market decide, let people decide which service provider is done for them, is best for them, and just if there's any type of regulation, just sort of a truth in advertising, so that if you do have an ISP that throttles or restricts certain types of traffic, they need to be upfront with the consumer about that. And that's I think that's only fair. So anyway, that's my response. Hope you post it, and have a good night.